Jordi Barrett has done everything possible.
Oh, my God. Has he what? He's going above and beyond. And if you look at it, and a weird thing with Jordi Barrett, he's probably the most best prepared because he's played against some French players. You know, like he's been up there and he's been playing club rugby against them. So he's sort of felt the vibe and understands the style and can probably bring back a lot in terms of the analysis work they would have done through that Champions Trophy.
Yeah, and they selected him.
Yeah, yeah.
which is most important, and they reaped the rewards of selecting the best 12.
And probably the best try of the season. That was some try.
Yeah.
The skill set of that man is just freakish.
Yeah, if you're in New Zealand and you didn't catch it, Leinster beating the Bulls in the URC, Jordi Barrett again putting on a masterclass up there. Just
even the
so
last
good.
try, his downline, because he's such a threat, it just tightens the Bulls' defence. And out the back to, I think it was Gunn, the replacement halfback, who went all the way. He still had a lot to do. It was an impressive try, but the space he created. I know I'm getting off topic now.
No, you're not.
To another
go.
Well, I just have to say, you look at it, 32-7, 7 line breaks by Leinster to 0 of the Bulls, and I think that probably gives you an indication of, I suppose, that attacking prowess of that Leinster side is just world class, and Jordie's a massive part of that.
And that was without Jamison Gibson Park.
Oh. They are an international team. Like Jake White, it wasn't, felt like he was sort of, behind the 8 ball from the get-go in terms of 23 international players, normally 23. But, that's the nature of the beast.
What did you make of that, Bryn? Jake White essentially saying that, having Jordi Barrett come up against you, and in the case of the Bulls, a big slap in the face that, Snyman was, there as well against him as a guy who came up through the Bulls system. When you look at what's going to happen in a few years' time when this Club World Cup comes up, are the Southern Hemisphere teams, are New Zealand, are South African teams going to have problems because global superstars are being collected into super squads in comparison to what's coming from down here? And when you get to a final, are the chances going to be eradicated by pure depth of wallet?
Yes and no. Like if you do look on the weekend, there was a lot of experience and I guess international caps, and they probably played a little bit more expensively than the Bulls, and they're probably the line breaks and been able to have the score at 32-7. But let's not forget, it's taken Leinster maybe 4 years to get some trophies.
Yeah.
So we've talked around them a lot. They've had this wealth of experience, pretty much the Irish team there, sprinkled in with a few international players, but they still haven't been able to get the job done. So that's been able to come when you're on the field in a final. Anything can happen. You look at the Northampton Saints, they played an expansive brand of footy, but they had 4 or 5 moments that they scored tries. We saw Pollock's try. We saw the backs been able to score pretty much when they needed to, and then it's a different game. So I think the challenge, and it will always be for South Africa, and probably a thing that we don't have down here in New Zealand, is that all of their players are playing elsewhere in the world. So not all of their best players are playing in South Africa at the moment, but in saying that, in the international stage, with a lot of these South African players being able to play in different parts of the world, they are able to come back and play for their national team. But what it does do, though, and it has built depth for the South African rugby, I guess, nation. I know the Bulls didn't get the win there, but all the younger players, all the development players that are playing against these, international sides, like Leinster, they have a lot of that. They're playing that every single week. So when they do go to that South African team, I don't think the jump is as big at what it used to be. So they're playing a different brand of footy. They're playing some high quality players. And when they do go to South Africa and they play for the national team, they've got that experience where something that we probably don't have down in this part of the world. Now, that's not to say that Super Rugby Pacific wasn't great this year, because I think this has probably been the best version of this competition. But the young guys in that South African system are playing in some very good competitions and playing some pretty competitive rugby against the Northern Hemisphere teams and players.
The old eligibility.
Yeah, eligibility.
It must remain, I think, for us to stay strong.
But it doesn't stop us bringing people in.
No, it doesn't. We've seen Joe Marchant. I think the Blues, when I was playing, were close to getting Hokobare. So if there is space, as long as you don't want to be blocking an opportunity for talent that's homegrown here in New Zealand. But if there is space, there is the ability to do so. Pablo Matera.
James O'Connor.
James O'Connor. So it's still, you've got the ability. You don't have the wallet.
Yeah.
But
that's the problem, isn't it?
Well, is it? Yeah. But for some people, James Haskell sort of started just to come and play in New Zealand and have the opportunity. And it's not always about the money.
Yeah.
And I think, New Zealand clubs have something else other than money to offer. It's a good lifestyle for them down here in terms of that balance between rugby and seeing parts of the world. And there's no travelling to South Africa anymore, so...
If New Zealand doesn't win the World Club Champs, we'll be asking this question again, probably.
Yeah, but we'll be... I think I'm going to stick with my original approach. Let's just have one and find out.
But yeah.
And then we can dissect it. I don't want to scare anyone off before we've started.
I think it'll make rugby feel a little bit more like football, and that we'll start to understand that, hey, that's just how it goes. You got to go to Europe. You got to get your opportunity. You got to take those things, and that the World Club Champs might actually start to see even more of that. And New Zealand rugby might just have to get used to it. Yeah,
it is like football is more of a club-dominated sport, a little bit like rugby league. Like I still think rugby is an international dominated sport. Like everything is sort of shaped towards...
Unless you're in France.
I still think they like to win it. But yes, they are the closest thing to...
Yeah.
But I think for French players, they've got a good relationship, probably not for other players that play for other nations. It's not as easy because the insurance is just so high. But I think for the French players and how it works there, it works for them. But yeah, I think it could... the last thing you want to have that fan engagement and that interest, but I don't think we want to lose that the Rugby World Cup is our biggest
thing, and it's all aimed.
I think that would be a shame.
Yeah, but you could feel Jake White's pain. Like you could feel the pain watching one of their own players beat them. It's been coming off the bench to beat them. And say, let's be fair to Leinster, they've developed the majority of that squad. I mean, they have brought in a few New Zealanders and South Africans and naturalised them, but they've developed most of that squad, and maybe they're not in the same
the bulk of them are Irish internationals.
Yeah, they're not. It's probably being a bit facetious to say that the depth of their wallet was the thing that won it, but certainly their recruitment, whether it's from a deep wallet or not, is very, very strong. Very strong.